Hello everyone, greetings, welcome back. This is video number 3 of the series sponsored by Affin Bank, Surviving and Thriving Through the Pandemic. So wherever you are, good morning, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Good afternoon if you are watching this in the afternoon. And well, we are going to get started. So let me get to the slides. Um, Okay, so today we are here thanks to Affin Bank bringing this to us, and we've been doing this now. This is the third in the series, and in the first 2 episodes in the mini series, we talked about building a strong mindset. We talked about crisis response and team communication. That was episode 2. So you've been receiving these educational videos recorded specially for you guys because you're Affin Bank customers. And if you missed out on episode 1 and 2, please, if you can't find it in your email or whatever, please contact Affin Bank and you can watch it and learn a couple of things that you can apply in your business. Okay, so today we're on to cash flow mastery. And the last one you want to look out for is marketing for business recovery. So in my first chapter of my book, Profit Max Your Business, I talk about the 3 pillars of business success. So we always start with mindset. Because if your mindset is not right, whatever we teach you, whatever new knowledge, whatever new skills, you're not going to be able to apply it. So first thing is get your mindset right. So that's why we started with video 1 on mindset. And then we moved on in the second video to talk about crisis communication, and we gave some examples of how to plan your communication depending on who your target audience is. If you're talking to your customers, or you're talking to your creditors, or maybe even your bank, or you're talking to, importantly, your team. How do you talk to your team? What are the key messages? What channels you should use, and so on. So today, we know that information is all available everywhere, but where you get your information from is very important. And I just want to emphasize that SMEs can leverage with the right mindset, with the skills and knowledge. So if you have the right mindset, the skills and the knowledge, you can take on world competition, you can take on the best in the world. Because now you have a level playing field. Okay, knowledge is readily available to the internet and all kinds of other means. So we may be small, but we can be very effective. And you can see so many examples. Okay, so I'm going to quote this guy, Vern Harnish. He's the author of a book called Rockefeller Habits. And he says, whoever learns faster wins. When the sun comes up, you better be learning. So I hope you guys take some notes and learn a few things that you can apply. So many of you would have heard of this. No, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash flow is reality. Put it another way, some people say cash is king, right? So cash is indeed king, because if your business is out of cash, you're out of business. Simple as that, no? So cash is king. So today we're going to talk about cash flow mastery, how to master and control your cash flow during this pandemic, and not only during this pandemic, but even beyond. Okay. So I hope you guys stay tuned. Now, over the last few months, because of MCO, RMCO, EMCO, and all that, sales have dropped. No? It's dropped because we were closed for business, number 1. Number 2, we encounter people who have lost their jobs. So income levels, spending levels has dropped. Number 3, the whole world is affected by the pandemic. So economic factors come into play as well. So where's the cash? When business is down, we have to look for cash. And well, sometimes we may be in a bit of panic, a bit of shock, a bit of anxiety, So how do we get through that? So in summary, the pandemic has impacted companies, even big companies. Recently, we read about Genting also being affected. Of course, AirAsia and many, many other companies. So if you're not in the glove sector, you're probably affected, no? But the impact is triple, So I call it a triple whammy. First of all, some of you in business would have been affected by supply disruptions, you know. So during the lockdown, whether the lockdown was in our country or another country. So now, for example, Melbourne, the whole state of Victoria in Australia is under lockdown. So if you're sourcing products or services from Melbourne, you'll be affected, or other parts of the world, no, for that matter. Secondly, there was a drop in demand. So thirdly, the decline in working capital and cash flow. So all this affect our business. So it's a triple whammy. And here are some important stages to take note of. No? So at the beginning, MCO started, there was a big shock. And then the conditional MCO started. So we started to open up our economic activity. But now the big one to look out for is end of September, 30th of September, the loan moratorium comes to an end, which means that it's going to have a big impact on additional expenses in terms of loan repayments, in terms of interest repayments, and so on. So that's the thing to look out for. No? So very important. And I'm sure all of you are already gearing up for that. Now, having said that, have you given your business a financial stress test? What do you mean by financial stress test? You know, when you go for a health checkup, sometimes they put you on a health stress test. They put you on the treadmill machine, make you run very fast so that your heart is stressed up to 80% of your maximum heart rate to see how your heart is functioning. Then they do a ECG. So that's called a stress test. So same thing in finance and business. You can give your business a financial stress test and check how healthy or how strong your business is. You know? So how do we do that? Basically, we stress test by saying, okay, let's take your business down by 30%. How is your cash flow? How are you performing at 30% drop? Then we take it more seriously and say, okay, what about 50? If you lose 50% of your customers or 50% of your business, what's going to happen? Can your business withstand that test? So that's a financial stress test, which you can either talk to your finance manager or your accountant, or if you use an external accountant, talk to them to figure that out. You should have done this at the beginning of the MCO, okay? So if you haven't, well, it's still not too late. You should still do it, no? So when you do this test, you find that your business is in one of four places, no? You could be in ICU, intensive care, not a nice place to be, but this is where you're like, you know, down to your last few weeks of cash flow or down to your last month of cash flow or something like that. Pretty drastic. You might be scratching your head how to pay salaries or how to pay rent end of the month. So that's in ICU. Then some of you are sick. In other words, it's hand to mouth. No? You can barely cover your costs and expenses. And some of you, because you are going to lose a big customer or something, you are going to be sick. Okay, that's the red box. That's the third box. And maybe around 10, maybe maximum 15% of you are in healthy situation. You can last for another 6 months, 12 months, even 18, 24 months, no problem. No. So if you're a very cash rich company, like for example, YTL, or even Genting for that matter, where you have 2 years of cash reserves, then no problem. No? Okay. So you got to identify which area, because if you're in a different, depending on which box you are, you need a different action plan, you need a different sort of revival recovery plan. And sometimes if you're in ICU, you might want to think about whether you want to continue or just go away for a while and recover back when things are back to a more stable kind of situation. I didn't want to say back to normal because there's no more going back to normal. This is the new normal. Okay. So maybe when things become more normal, you want to come back again. So these are evaluation and analysis you need to do. Okay. Assuming your business is still okay, you're either sick or going to be sick or even healthy, then what you need is to have a tool. And the most important tool in managing cash flow is what I call your cash flow projection. Now, most accountants look at cash flow projection only on a monthly basis. That is very good, no? So they look at 12 months cash flow projection to see where you're going, how you're headed, how strong you are, what are the crisis points. But my recommendation is to go even further and look at a week by week, 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. So this is an example of a 13-week rolling projection. A rolling projection means every time you take out 1 week, because let's say this week becomes last week, by next week, this week will become last week. So now you only have 12 weeks because the first week is gone. So what you need to do is add 1 more week to the end of the 12 week. So it becomes 13. So you're always looking at 13 weeks. You're always looking forward 13 weeks. No matter what happens, you have 13 weeks in front of you. So you want to look at your cash position for the next 13 weeks. Why is that important? Because if you only look at month by month, you won't see the fine details. You won't see, for example, that in week 7, you've got a big chunk of money going out. You have to pay because it's commitments or whatever. And then you're stuck with a cash gap. You're stuck with a shortfall. So how do you handle that? How do you manage that? Do you want to know that at week 7 and week 7 or week 6, or do you want to know it now? Obviously, you want to know it now so that you can plan and prepare ahead. So the week by week cash flow projection is absolutely essential, and it forces you to do a few things. It forces you to look at what are collections that you're expecting. Will they come through? Are some people going to default? Are you going to have some of your debtors push back 1 more week or 2 more weeks? So all these things could be very critical. So you need to monitor it very carefully, And even your expenses, you want to monitor carefully. But the most important thing is the income or the cash inflow. So is your cash inflow going to be steady, or is it going to be up and down, or is it going to be below expectation? So this is why you need to monitor it very closely on a week by week basis. Very, very important. Okay. And it's more than just cash in hand. It's also looking at cash coming in. If you have cash sales, then it's looking at cash sales. You have a combination of cash and credit sales, you've got to look at both. And if some of your big accounts are in trouble, you need to scrutinize that very, very carefully. Now, obviously, when you make a cash flow projection, there are assumptions. So I'm giving you a couple of examples. So you make some assumptions in terms of your sales. So if your sales are going to drop by 20% or 30% or 45% or whatever versus last year, that goes into your projection. The other thing is your collection. So if in the past people used to pay you about 60 days or 45 days, now it's being stretched to 75 or 90 days, you need to take that into account. So those assumptions go into your cash flow projection. And you need to prepare your sales and income forecast, as I mentioned just now. So all these are very important things to take note of. Okay. And when you do your projection, it's very important as you monitor on a week by week basis to measure the actual that you actually collected, the actual sales, cash sales that you actually generated compared to your projection. And if there's a shortfall, adjust accordingly. So let's say last week you were projecting for this week to have 10,000 cash sales and 5,000 credit sales. But when it comes to the actual, you only manage 8,000 cash sales and 4,000 credit sales. So your projection was off by total of 3,000. So you need to make adjustments accordingly. So maybe next week you have to catch up. Yeah. So this is very, very important. So the cash flow is not static. The cash flow projection is not static. And that's why I want you to look at it on a weekly basis, because it's a very dynamic situation. Your business situation could change. Maybe you're planning a promotion, or maybe you're planning some marketing activity, and then your projection was 100 and you outperform because of your marketing and you achieve 120. So you want to take that into account. So you have to always adjust and monitor. Okay. Now, I have a rolling cash flow projection template. It's a 13-week rolling cash flow projection template that will help you to plan your cash flow. If you want a free copy of the template, just send an email to success@peterlamcoach.com. Yeah. Okay. Just email us and we will send it to you. Okay. The other thing I want to introduce is this concept of a cash flow war room. When you have a war, you have a war room, right, where you do all the planning and all that. So I suggest that in this critical period, you might want to set up a war room. The war room could be your finance manager's office. It could be a small conference room or meeting room. But this is where all the information, all the data on your debtors, on your collections, on your sales forecast, on your marketing plan, on your inventory, on your account receivables, on your payables, everything is there. And you want to know what is happening. So the cash flow war room is a space where you're focused and where you can make better and clearer decisions on what to do next. Because every action has to come back to your cash flow. Is this activity going to generate cash flow? If not, maybe it's not so high priority. Is this decision going to help me to improve my cash flow? When will I talk to my creditors? When will I talk to the bank? All these are very important. And end of the day, the big lesson is build your reserves. So it's nothing like having rock solid reserves. Like I said, companies like YTL will never go bust. Companies like Unilever, like Shell, like Exxon, these companies will never go bust because they have huge reserves. Now, you don't have to be like those big companies to build up your reserves. You can start by building up, if you're starting from zero, start with building up 1 week reserve, then 1 month reserve, then 3 months reserve, and so on and so forth. So as you go along, it become easier and easier. Okay. All right. So it's very good and very important to have your cash flow under control, but you also need to put in a few what I call essential plans. So the first one on the left you see there is your cash flow plan, or you can also call it your business survival plan. So your cash flow plan we've just talked about and we've just covered. So you need to plan your cash flow not only on a week by week basis, but forward for 13 weeks. Yeah. So that's very important. Then the other plan you should have is a business reopening or business recovery plan. So most of us already did our our reopening plan 2 months ago. And now we should be implementing a recovery plan. How to recover business that was lost? How do you recover back customers that have moved away or that have closed or that have stopped buying from you? Yeah. And how do you get new customers? The third plan is what you call a new revenue generation and growth plan. So if your business is down by 20, 30 or whatever percent, how do you recover back? How do you get back your growth plan? How do you get new revenue? So for example, if your outlet, let's say you had 11 outlets, but because of the crisis, you had to close 3 outlets. So those 3 outlets were closed because they were underperforming. So how do you recover back new revenue without opening new outlets? So one obvious one is to go online, right? But sometimes it's not so easy, or your products cannot go online because they're bulky, cannot be delivered, or you need time to set it up, or even you set it up, it's going to take time to build up the customer base. So you need new revenue and new growth plans. And then the last one is the new normal business plan. So in the past, you may have been planning for 12 months or even 3 years. Now you cannot do that anymore because things are so uncertain. We don't know whether there's going to be a wave 2 or wave 3. The latest numbers are 9 million people are infected around the world with COVID, and the statistics for death rate is also very, very scary. I think it's 900,000 or something. Sorry, the death rate is 900,000, getting closer to 1 million, and the infection rate I think is something like 20 over million. Yeah, so it's still happening. So the new normal is not possible. So what I recommend is to do a 90-day dynamic business plan. So you still plan, but you plan for 90 days or 3 months forward, and it's dynamic. That means you review and look at it maybe every week. Instead of every month in the past, you have to look at it every week. So it's a dynamic business plan, and you got to be agile enough and flexible enough to change or add on or continue with your business plan. So before I finish, I just want to leave you with a few wise words from people. So Edward Deming, the guy who taught us all about quality control and quality standards, he says it's not enough to do your best. You must know what to do and then do your best. Okay. And in this age of information, ignorance is a choice. Like I said, you missed out on video 1, video 2, go back to Affin Bank, go back to your email, search for it, look for it, listen to it, learn from it, and apply. Okay. So continue your journey of learning. And in the next session, we're going to talk about marketing and business recovery. So stay tuned. So marketing is essential, and we need to recover our business and make it stronger and build it stronger. So marketing is key. So we'll talk about that in session 4, which is the next session. Okay. So just a quick one on my book. So because you're an Affin Bank customer and because we are business partners with Affin Bank, we want to offer you a very special and exclusive offer. So my book, which won an award in 2018, is available in all bookshops, MPH, Popular, Kinokuniya, and so on. And it's priced at $59.90. And because you're an Affin Bank customer, we will ship it to you with handling charges for only 39 bucks. So for 39 ringgit, you can continue your learning and your education. And it's a very practical book with a lot of diagrams, a lot of charts, a lot of stories, and a lot of ideas to help you to implement so that you build a solid business. not only get through this crisis, but to build a solid business for the long term. Okay. So stay tuned. The next session is going to be on marketing and business recovery.